gentleman with a different claim to fame, in fact, several different claims to fame. His name is never out of the gossip columns for long, whether it's for landing himself in hospital after getting stabbed in a sword fight, or getting whiskey poured over his head by Shelley Winters, or joining in a drinking contest, as he did on his latest film with co-star Lee Marvin. A couple of weeks ago, he lost a bet and had to shave off all his hair. Ladies and gentlemen, the bald Oliver Reed. That's the problem with saying people are bald and then they walk on and they're very hairy.
The press are always behind Russell.
The press are always behind Oliver as well, aren't they?
Well, they're a little bit behind. This happened about 2 weeks ago, but I'm quite a virile fellow, and so it grew fairly quickly.
So have I heard, as Hamlet says, and do in part believe.
Crikey. I remember I did a program a few years ago. I was looking at your book the other day, and you used a long word. I don't know. What did he say?
I use a lot of long words.
Don't use them with me.
I'm going to use short ones tonight. But how did you come to lose this? What bet was it?
So I used the expression masseuse, which is the female of masseur. We were talking about the massage, and a friend of mine said that it was masseuse instead of masseuse, and I said it was masseuse, and so he said, "I tell you what, if you're wrong, you shave off your hair, and if I am wrong, I'll shave off mine." So I said, "Fair enough." He looked very confident. I went straight up to the barbers, had mine shaved off. And I came down bald as a badger, and we were in the Caribbean at the time, and the sun was very hot, blisters grew, and I thought, I don't know how to get a correction on this. And so the only person that we could ask, because nobody could afford to stay in the hotel, except a very rich Norwegian. And so
There's only one person in the
That's
hotel.
right, the rich Norwegian. And so we went up to the rich Norwegian. We said, "Excuse me, you know the female version of masseur? Is it masseuse or masseuse?" And he said masseuse, and so that was it. But I have subsequently been written to by several college professors that says that there are two readings of the situation. But anyway, that's
too late.
And the Barnett's back, and it's as good as gold.
If it's not an impertinent question, what were you doing discussing masters? Right, the next question is, in the Caribbean, of all places, I would have thought you'd have been hot enough, as you have rightly
I was swimming. I was running up and down the beach. I was on holiday there with. I came over there to watch the Pakistani West Indian game of cricket.
Mm-hmm. Well, now your latest film, which if we may talk of and thereby dispose of, I don't mean rudely, but I mean placed neatly to one side, is called The Great Scout and CATHOUSE Thursday. Mm-hmm. Now, briefly, what does that title mean? Because it is a bit of a mouthful.
It means that Lee Marvin plays the Great Scout when he can see. And CATHOUSE Thursday is played by LENZ, and she plays a little girl who I use on Thursdays at the local brothel.
Well, can we look at a little scene, which I think takes place outside the local brothel? Let's have a look at The Great Scout and CATHOUSE Thursday, which may not seem any different from any day, ordinary day in the life of Oliver Reed.
Out in the middle of the night without any clothes on. It's really cold. Yes. Yes. Who beat you up? I'm into a private house interrupting our business. Let me go. Go. You're kidding. Martin. You shut up. You slave. Hey. You know what? Come out of here. That's my foot. Oh, you can't believe it.
Hey, you crazy Indian! Get out of there!
to a fate worse than death?
No, but I've got I've had several offers for lighter commercials since then, and Vidal Sassoon.
Amongst others. I
Yeah.
mean, there you are, very hairy. In fact, you're hardly at the beginning of that clip. You're barely recognizable as you.
Yeah.
When you go away to make films, how do you ensure the fact that you have a good time? I mean, you seem to have a good time on locations. I don't know whether you do or whether you don't, but how do you ensure that you have a good time? I mean, as well as work. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. I ensure that I know most of my lines before I start the film, and I ensure that that when in choosing the film that I do, and in choosing the company of the people who are in the films, I think that there should be a marriage between enjoying oneself and working hard. I believe that they both marry into each other. And to work with Marvin was an actor, along with George C. Scott and Brando, that I admired very much. Had never had the opportunity to work with before, and therefore it was an opportunity that I wasn't going to miss. And I played a half-breed Indian. It doesn't show itself here, but I prayed to a half. I'm pissed again. Played a half-breed Indian.
They'll believe you. They'll
believe me at the local pub.
They will. They will. But the fascinating thing about the names that you so elegantly dropped there, like Marvin and Brando.
Well, you have to get that in.
Of course you do, and you did elegantly. Now, how do you know whether they're going to get on with you or you with them? Has the director to take full responsibility for a true marriage in that kind of situation?
I don't know. I was some costumes were made for me in this part by a costuming company in England, and they got lost on the aeroplane, and they had to be made down at in Los Angeles. And on the drive back, or on the way to the costumer, the producer and the director of the film were driving me, and they said, Oliver would like to tell you that Lee Marvin has a reputation of being a little bit, and so we'd ask you if you would be so kind as not to with him, because otherwise it's going to be. And I said, oh, certainly. And so I met Marvin at Los Angeles Airport, who was unconscious on a bench at 5 o'clock in the morning. And the secretary came of the film. This is a long story. The secretary of the film company came along and she said, "Can I have your bags, Mr. Marvin?" I had kitted myself out to impress the Americans that I was an Englishman, and I got a lot of Dougie Hayward suits, and I was going down there and I had about 5 cases. And Marvin came out with a satchel, and the secretary said, "1 piece of baggage, Mr. Marvin." And he said, "It's only 1 film, sweetheart." We then sat on the plane all the way down to Durango, and neither of us drank at all. And we were drinking coffee, and I was sitting there looking like a bank manager, and he was sitting there looking like a refugee. We eventually arrived in Durango, which some people would name as one of the orifices of the earth. And we looked at each other for 10 minutes. He said, "A large vodka," and I said, "A large vodka." And that was the beginning of our relationship. And besides having a fantastic time with him, it was also a great experience working with him. It was a fairly straight interview. Have you got a ciggy, please?
Yes, a cigarette.
Yeah.
I think I have. Will you wait? Yes, I do have one. You want just one?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Are you nervous that you should require a cigarette?
Yeah.
You mentioned pubs briefly in about a minute or two ago. Do you still cleave to the ambition that you once expressed to own a pub finally, to end up in one?
I believe I learned to act through pubs. I learned to act in the army as well. I came out of the army and nobody would employ me. And I used to take my photographs around, which for the audience are 10 by 8 photographs. And I used to go around and nobody would employ me. And I'd put them in at the agents' offices. And then I thought, well, this is hopeless because I can't carry photographs around London all my life. So I'm going to get a pub if ever I get the money. Mm-hmm. And now I have begun, to earn some money. I think that I've got to be honest to myself and one day buy a pub. Because let's face it, I know a lot of good publicans that make very good actors.
It may not be the same mate, though. I mean, if people sort of get into their jags and say, let's all go and see Oliver Reed's pub, that may not cause it to be the home of natural philosophers, which you, I think, quite admire. I mean,
no, I won't be there. I won't be there.
Yeah, but it will still have some of your kudos attached to it.
No, I won't be there. That would be the surprise. And in my local pub, I always hide up the chimney, and especially when it's burning, and because I know where the hams used to be, and I hide up the chimney for 25 minutes, and I watch them, and then I hear the door open and shut, and I know some strangers have come into the pub because I know the regulars, and they always come falling in.
Right.
And I hear,
Apparently, as I'm for the Christmas,
Father Christmas, and I've been stuck up here since New Year's Eve. Look here!
And then I jump down the chimney into the fire, fall onto the floor. Everybody gets covered in soot,
Yes.
and they demand for their money back because their beer is full of water.
And another large ham appears in the
Yeah, and that's why really I think that pubs are places of entertainment, and I believe in the way that our society is beginning to structure itself at the present moment. Probably people still go to the pub to be entertained, whether it's by a singer or whether it's by the old folks telling stories. I believe very much in the kudos, as a word, of the pub as an entertaining or as an entertainment centre of our society.
Would you allow women into your pub? I mean, are they natural?
No, I'd have separate bars for men, and the women would be allowed in the other bars.
What is the feud, if you're allowed to talk about it, that existed between you and Raquel Welch?
There was no feud at all. In actual fact, I got in a punch-up in Romania defending Raquel Welch.
From what? Whom?
From some people who assumed that they could dance with her when she didn't want to dance with them. I mean, the press like to write stories about me simply because they think it's politically... they're politically inclined to do so, but it makes good copy. If I argue with Raquel Welch,
you don't mind that anymore, do you? I mean, surely you're through all that kind of worry.
But the funny thing is, Russell, we went down there and they had what they call a junket, where a whole load of press people come down, and I refused to see them. I just went and hid because I was doing a complicated sword fight and I didn't want to talk to people. I was trying to remember my moves I should make as a swordsman. But they got onto Raquel and they tried to incite a kind of violence between us. In actual fact, there is absolutely none at all, and Raquel Welch and I get on very well.
Of course we do. Actors are often considered to be dumb people who don't think a lot and who occasionally look beautiful and don't mouth or voice opinions. The country, you would not claim to be in a very happy state. I mean, do you have opinions of how you would write us or wrong us, or do you think we ought to be slithering as we are, or are you supremely indifferent to our fate?
As human beings?
No, as a country.
I have very...
do you have opinions about it?
Of course I have opinions. I have very hard opinions. I don't believe... I always say, we're basically an island country. We're pirates. For the structure of our society to change, whereby their opinions determine that we are no longer pirates, we should no longer have a pride in individuality. The fact that we should no longer go out and fight. And it really is, come on, we've got no opportunity now, have we? In the old days, it used to be pirate ships and it used to be daggers and swords, and then we'd go out and do it. Society will not warrant anymore that they are going to allow England to do that. They are no longer going to allow any country.
But hold on. Why would we want to go out and be pirates and buccaneers?
I think deep down, we lament the fact that we are no longer allowed to do it. I'm not saying that we should perpetrate the old attitude of pirates. I think what we lament is the fact that the pirates used to come back sometimes, and we used to dance in the pubs, and we used to go back, and we used to laugh. I understand that that's inevitable. That things that change. But in the course of, for instance, the British cinema industry, I find it difficult to be able to understand that most of our bucko boys and most of our talent and most of our good captains and most of our good sailors and most of our good gunners have now gone abroad in order to find their bounty, because there's a difference between bounty and privateer. I believe that our country is beginning to forget the fact that we have captains and kings, and I am sorrowful. I would like now some of the talent that has left England in terms of musicians and writers and economists and scientists and doctors to come back and be afforded the opportunity of coming back for their due rewards. I don't believe that they can get their rewards by being taxed out of existence. I believe that Michael Caine and I are about the two top actors. I mean, I'm not saying that we're the better actors, but the luckier actors at the time that are still remaining. I'm not sure how long we're going to be able to be allowed to remain in this country with the tax system such as it is at the moment.
Are you happy enough to support a welfare state?
Of course I am. Of course I am. I have supported a welfare state throughout my life. All I am saying is that I do not wish to be driven out of this country. I cannot determine that if things get harder and harder, that I am going to be able to afford to either run my home or to keep myself in this country in a manner that I think befits me. And I'm supposed to be larger than life. If you want me to become, am I allowed to finish? If you want me to become like, you know, Mr. Jones' other actor, fine. Fine. I will become him. I will be unhappy in that state. And being unhappy in that state, I'm allowed to make objection, and I'm allowed to say that if it continues, then I, of all the people who love my country so dearly, am bound to take the course of other people who are persecuted by the tax system and leave. That is not what I want. I believe that a national film organization, society, I believe there should be a minister of films, whereby, I mean, Leyland asking for a great deal of money in order to support Leyland cars. I believe that it therefore be purposeful that a great deal of money is expended through the taxpayer into a national film company, whereby half the profits go back into the coffers again, and a national film company, and I am perfectly prepared to work for half my rate. And I know that a lot of musicians, because I go to Los Angeles quite a deal, and I see some of the refugees, and if given the top whack of 50%, and that's what they pay, before they start being allowed an opportunity to digress or to show their talents, everybody would come back.
Why don't you channel some of this energy that you're putting into this big political speech and get out onto a platform and shout about it?
I'm on the Russell Harty show. That's quite a good platform to me. And I mean it. If I seem like a fool sometimes, that's in order that I'm an entertainer. But as an entity within the structure of the film unit, I am an actor. And I happen to know that 10 years ago, we were in the blue and everything was great. And now our talent, sadly, is leaving because the Americans have had to withdraw their money. And a lot of the big American producers and a lot of the people who were involved in the structuring of films were forced to leave the country because they were chased out because they had to pay British tax. And British tax is too much at the moment in order that a film company can survive, because we have to go into competition with the American market and with the Italian and the Japanese market.
Well, can I just say to you that I have kept quiet for 5 minutes and I'm impressed by the torrent and the volume of what you've had to say. And it's a refreshing change to see the other side of the bombastic, pushy, mighty Oliver Reed. Thank you for refreshing us all in that way, Oliver Reed.